Black. This is Dr. Kazique Prince with my friend Dr. Helm. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Happy Thursday. We got lots to
It's
talk about.
Thursdays. Oh yeah, lots to talk about. Seems like every day there's something to talk about. And the good thing about this is that you and I get to go and deep. What's the word? Deep dive into
Do we
some
do a
things.
deep dive? That's
Deep
right.
dive. All right.
That's right. If our
Well,
audience knew how little we studied the topics, what would they say?
I mean, it's kind of like
It's
going to
horrible.
class, you know. You're like,
We do study. We do a little
yeah, we
research.
studied. We studied. We studied. Well, we have a lot of subjects to talk about today. Uh, I feel like we have to revisit the Jimmy Kimmel situation.
We
We're
do.
actually going to try to share a video to kind of give some context to the situation. And
Mhm.
then we want to have a conversation. I shared this idea of sympathy versus empathy. There's some conservative voices, particularly white Christian nationalists, who have had some really strong opinions about empathy and sympathy and its role in our society. And
Mhm.
then I thought this one was going to be really cool. Dr. Hellman and I kind of buddied on this one. I'm framing it as men and women relationships, but we can expand to other relationships as well. But Gen Z particularly.
Yeah.
One part of it is there was an artist named Sabrina Carpenter who suggested that maybe women need to coach men through relationships.
I think
So
she
that's
called it relationship training.
yeah, something like that. And
Yeah.
then we
Men
got
training.
the other part of that is how about we? Oh, this is what you brought up. It's about women feeling the need to have more kids, but at the same time feeling behind because of the
No, it's
employment
women
opportunities.
not wanting to have more kids or
Yes,
kids at
yes,
all. Yes,
yes,
and then
yes.
talking about why Gen Z may feel behind due to some
Right.
things happening in society. Yeah.
Cool. And then
Yep.
our side eye, I went into the depths of the thing, and I was reading about Cardi B and the
Yes, I'm
situation
pulling it up now.
and the situation she finds herself in with her baby daddy and some OnlyFans star named Brittany Jones who's throwing some shade out here. So the side eye is for Brittany Jones, in my opinion, but we'll get to it.
Okay, that sounds good.
Is that cool? Is that cool?
All right, are we
So
ready?
because we spent so much time last time, and I think it's important for us to start off with Jimmy Kimmel. And what I
Mhm.
want to do here, and we'll see if it works. I want to share this video and get people's perspective, but particularly you, Dr. Helm, see what your thoughts are here. All right, here we go. You should be able to hear it.
Jimmy made us proud as comedians, as Americans. He came, first of all, if they had had that conversation earlier, we could have gotten to the grace and the healing. So, if everybody is hollering about being a Christian, why don't you really act like being a Christian and give people forgiveness? I'm a Republican. I don't want Democrats to fail. I don't want independents to fail. I want people to come together, have a dialogue, and truly make this country better. And when Jimmy Kimmel got up last night and he talked about what he did not mean to do, it showed more grace and more humanity than all the people that are involved. Jimmy.
Well, I thought that was pretty poignant. You could hear it, right?
Yeah, I could hear it. Yeah.
And so, okay, there was something new, so I was kind of nervous it was going to work, but I'm glad it worked. I'm glad you saw it. And I know what's your reaction? I mean, put the context to it. Last week we talked about Jimmy Kimmel being fired from his position indefinitely.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
ABC slash Disney decided to come back on this. They said they had a series of conversations, and so he came back Tuesday night. Had a
It's about that
great
money, money,
show.
money. Yeah.
Well, because at the same time, what happened? You had all these people canceling their Hulu slash Disney membership, and
Yeah.
so it was having a real drastic impact on their bottom line, on their
Yeah.
dollars. And so now they're having a conversation about this, and he's back, and he had his first show back on this past
He did.
Tuesday. I don't know if you got to
Yeah.
watch it, but it was hella funny. And he never apologized, but he acknowledged, I think, the truth, which is this is a horrible situation we find ourselves in with a young man who's a father, who's a partner who was murdered, and how sad it is. And he cried and got choked up. But then he
Yeah.
went in deep on Trump, which was the point
Yeah.
of the initial joke in the first place.
Yeah,
But
so I think a couple of things are really interesting. One, the removal of the show in the first place and that money brought it back. So we see whatever people say their values are, or at least entities and corporations are surely shifted by the power of the dollar. So
mm,
that's interesting. I saw parts of his opening monologue that appeared to be very heartfelt and kind of really putting free speech out there to the test. Do we mean what we say we mean when we say we want free speech? Which means people say stuff you don't always agree with, and you don't have to. They shouldn't
no.
have to die over it, right? We shouldn't have to attack people over it, but and it is interesting to hear Cheryl Underwood's perspective, being a Black Republican and all. Pause. Okay. But I mean, and she had good things to say, and I agree with her. I mean, I think it's rare when we see genuine moments in Hollywood that are not manufactured, and that's what was needed.
And we talked about that last week, these manufactured moments, right? This
Yep.
manufactured rage. And I think what I really loved about Cheryl Underwood's commentary here is, as a Christian, she was representing herself in two ways, I think. Well, probably more than two, but at least as a comedian,
Yep.
as a Republican, as a Black woman, and she and as a Christian, is
Yep.
saying all this hubbub and this all this manufactured outrage there seems to
Yep.
be take us off the of what we really should be focusing on is real dialogue. Real
Yep.
dialogue. If people had real concerns about Jimmy Kimmel and what he had to say, someone should have come to him, whether it be the family or representatives of the family or politicians or whoever, saying, "Hey, Jimmy, that didn't sit really right." And one of the things that Jimmy said, he said, "Look, again, I don't know if he really apologized, but he says, look, I understand this is a sensitive time, and even though I know I didn't make comments directly about him because I know how I feel about him, I can see how people could be
Yeah.
misinterpreted or feel some kind of way about it,
Sure.
regardless."
Yep. Yep. I mean, it was kind of a model in the skills that we are lacking in society now. How do you have dialogue with people who are different than you, right?
Hmm.
How do you hear people who don't believe as you believe? And so I thought it was very poignant, very heartfelt. And I hope that its meaning is not lost on people and that it lasts. So we're going to see.
I hope so. I mean, we're gonna see, and I'll be honest. I mean, these are the kinds of things I'm looking for from like the Cheryl Underwoods of the world and other folks who are coming out. Whether it be the conflict in Gaza with Israel, whether it's the war in Ukraine, whether it's what's going on here in the States. Periodically, we see people coming out making really, I think, strong, balanced statements about kind of like, hey, there's some really messed up things here, some fucked up shit going on here, and let's remind ourselves of the humanity of all of us involved here. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
Too little of that
overgeneralizing.
today. There's too
I'm
little
sorry.
of that. There's too little of that going on right now.
Yeah, it is definitely too little of that. I forgot to do our
I was going
grounding
to say,
card. You like, Kazique, what you doing? Moving straight to
I
the stuff.
mean,
Well, I'm gonna do this one. I think we've done this before, but I want to do it again because I think it gives us opportunity to mention someone else who's important to us. It says,
okay.
someone who loved me into being is blank. Someone who loved me into being is
I
blank.
think my answer is going to be the same, and my parents did, both figuratively and literally.
Hmm.
I mean, all the things that they taught me, and how they loved. I was lucky; they loved me unconditionally, had high
Hmm.
standards for me, and so I think I hit the parent lottery. They are no longer with us, which especially allows me to appreciate them. But I hit the parent lottery, and I'm lucky.
I'm gonna switch up because parents are for me they're easy ones and they make sense because they put so much sacrifice into our lives, right? But someone who I grew up with who was kind of like he was there the whole time was my younger brother, and he wasn't there the whole time. I've been in his life all his life, but it's not he wasn't born until I was damn near five.
Okay.
But I feel like in his role in my life has been pretty instrumental because he's always kind of been there. He's always been a support. He's always brought his own personality. Lots of in my family, I'm kind of square, and he's more of the kind of lambastic, I don't want to say over the top, but lots of personality, kind of on the
Yeah.
loud side. And one of the things he's always reminding me is important to not be don't be ashamed to speak your mind and be yourself, you know. And so
Yeah.
he always is out there just extra, and again, to me, it's extra to me, but for him, it's just who he is. You know, it's part
Yeah.
of his personality, and he just reminds me to continue to be myself and to fight hard and do the things I need to do to get things done in this world. So yeah, so he loved me in the being in his own way, even
I
though he's a
love
young man.
that. I love that. I love that.
I just want to finish up this conversation on Jimmy Kimmel, because I think this is connected to the conversation we had also about these professors and other folks who are losing their jobs for making
Yeah.
commentary. One of the things I was reviewing this week was a number of lawsuits from these professors, from these
Mhm.
teachers, against the school districts and universities, saying, "Hey, my First Amendment rights are being violated."
Yeah.
Because when you look at what they said, they didn't say he deserved to die. They were saying things like, I don't even know who this guy is. Number one, number two, I don't like what he represented. And number three, oh, I feel really bad about his death and his family. And they were still being fired.
Yeah. That's
And it's
interesting.
I'll be honest. I'm gonna just put this out there. I assumed that they had said something that was kind of over the top, like he
Right.
deserved this. What should he expect when he says the things that he said?
Yeah.
And you find out and you read some of these things. It's actually the thing that's actually, I think, the most prominent thing, which is, man, it sucks that this happened. And bro, I don't like anything he represented. Yet they were
Yeah.
losing their jobs, and I don't know. I feel like that's a line that's being crossed as far as employers of firing
Well, it's
people. It seems
we
weird.
are all free speech is challenged everywhere, right? And we're all for free speech until somebody we don't like or don't agree with starts talking, right? And
Right.
so I mean, I think we are in our country, we are in a battle for our values. We are in a battle for our values. And one of the values is, can you get along with people who are different than you and respect their belief system? And in some circles, it's no. So,
What do you think that's about? Because it seems like the premise behind the freedom of speech is that we would have these kind of dialogues, but maybe the circumstances that we currently find ourselves in, where we just don't make room for that gray area, or we don't make room for that actual debate,
mhm.
it has to be one or the other, and there's no
I
room
think
for
it's
any
about
kind of in the
I'm
middle.
right, you're wrong. I
Mm.
mean, most human beings think that their value system is the value system. Their God is the God. Their this is the right. And I don't know if we ever have created a safe space for people to have those kind of dialogues on a consistent and permanent basis. But I think that it's about, well, my values are the right values and yours are wrong. And it's now tied deeply and inherently to politics,
It
right?
is.
And
It
so
is.
it is like entrenched in religion and politics and who's right and who's wrong. And so it is really damaged free speech and the ability to have respectful dialogue with people who are different than you.
Right.
And we have to decide if, as a society, this is what we want, this is what the United States is about, or not. And I think we're battling over that right now.
We sure are, and I think where we oftentimes won these when the final decision about what is free speech and what's not free speech is usually we use the courts to kind of support that. I think the
Yeah.
difference now, it feels like the courts are not as supportive of free speech as they've had in the past, or I don't know. It just seems different. There seems to be a qualitative difference on how freedom of speech is being handled today, particularly in spaces where people are losing their jobs. I mean, like with
Yep.
the quickness.
Yep. Yep. And I think that's in response to everything going on. Like, let's tramp it down. Don't get too loud. So, well,
All right. Well, I think
well,
this is related to our next topic. I think sympathy versus empathy. I sent you a little bit of information. I don't know if you had an opportunity to kind of
did.
talk about that, but just to give context to it, there are some again white Christian nationalists, conservatives, who are coming out saying empathy is bad, that they're concerned that somehow it's being used to kind of keep people from fulfilling their fulfilling the things that they're supposed to do, and instead of so basically they're asking people to abandon empathy and
Yeah.
support sympathy as a way of dealing with situations.
I want to
And
know why this is even a topic. Good Lord.
well,
I
I
mean,
think it's a
come on.
topic for them. I think it's a topic for them because I think it gives them a rationale for continuing to do the harmful things that they've been doing, whether it's immigration, whether it's what's happening in educational systems, when it's cutting funding for USAID, AID. I think it's a justification because then they can rationalize that these are the best decisions we should make because they seem like the best decision, regardless of who it harms. So women, when they, we take their right to reproductive health away, and we force people who unfortunately are victims of incest having the child of their
Yeah.
father or uncle or something like that. That we're just, oh, you're being too empathetic.
Well, I just think it's once again goes back to I'm right and you're wrong. My values are the right values to have. You can put a bow on it and call it sympathy versus empathy, but at the heart of it, it's I'm right, you're wrong, I'm in charge, you gonna do it this way,
Hmm.
right? And maybe to an extent, um, maybe that's where we're at in society, regardless of who's in power. I'm right, you're wrong. And, we have really a long way to go to create spaces where we can actually learn from one another. It's not safe to do that right now. So you've
It's
got the
not
sympathy,
safe.
empathy, and as therapists, obviously, right, we engage in empathy, which can be socialized. There's some controversy about whether it can be taught. Can you feel what other people feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine what it would be like to be them? And quite frankly, if you can, that's very healing for people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that's missing, right? So, for example, I might have economic privilege, right, due to my educational background and multi generational folks going to school and all that kind of stuff. And I may never be able to touch the experience of somebody who doesn't have their next meal. But can I at least try to imagine what that might be like and have empathy for that experience? I can't live it, but I can really imagine what that's like and feel the weight of that and the humanity for the person going through those things.
Well, and I think at least what you make me think of is what are the skills that are necessary to build empathy, right? Because sympathy, by the definition I understand, is really you're understanding the situation, but you're not really seeing it from their perspective, right? You're
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
oh, it's almost like pity,
sorry. Yeah,
right?
poor you.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry for you, and I'm not saying there's no place for sympathy, but if you're trying to really understand where a person's coming from, it's really
Yeah.
understanding. I mean, it's going away from the golden rule to the platinum rule, which says I need to be in your shoes and understand where you're coming from and knowing what they want, not what you want.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that's the struggle that people have. And I'm not saying it's easy, but building the skills of empathy, particularly, I'm not talking about strangers on the street. I'm talking about just in your family. I mean, I can't imagine
Even
being
strangers
married to
on the street, would that be good too? Shoot.
I mean, it sure would be, but I guess what I'm having a problem with is you're saying empathy has no place. Where does it play out in your relationship with your significant others, with your children, with your family, your extended family members? You got to have some empathy in there to make
Well,
the family work
maybe
well.
that's different because it's your family. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
that's an important distinction. Maybe some people make rules saying I could do it for these folks,
I could do it
this
for
family.
people who look like me or I'm related to or my people, but those people over there, which goes back to the whole thing that we've been talking about, humanity,
Yep,
kindness.
yep.
Yeah.
Well, because now and I know you know this, but you know when you're dealing with someone who's very different than you on some level, whether it be race, gender, economic status, you name it. There's all kinds
Yeah.
of reasons why you may not be able to connect with them because of the differences that you have. But that's why it's important to delve into getting to know someone because chances are there's some commonality there that you're ignoring, not paying attention to, you're not aware of. You haven't spent the time to get to know them. That's where the bridge happens in those
But you have
unaware
to,
commonalities.
yep, but you have to value that in the first place.
Exactly. You have to see them as
So
human, right?
that's right. So I'm going to do a switch change of topic to lighten the mood.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to do our relationship training topic?
Oh, sure. Let's do that.
Is that all right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. So you sent me an article on Sabrina Carpenter. I guess she had a breakup with her significant other and talked about how she trains the men that she is with. You laughing? Why are you laughing?
I'm listening. I'm gonna be in a listening
Okay.
mode.
So, it's funny and not, but I'll say this, really, and at least as a couples therapist, we're sort of always in relationship training, regardless of gender or age or whatever, because people are always changing, right? And so we don't maybe have to call it relationship training, but you're always learning new things about your partner and their needs are changing. So you're always adapting to that. Relationships shouldn't stay stagnant. So, in some ways, even though maybe she meant it as a joke, or maybe she meant it as an insult, but she's not wrong. But she too would need to be trained because every time you're with somebody new, you kind of take some of that baggage from previous relationships and family stuff into this. But then you're with somebody new and that changes over the lifespan. So we all need regular training.
And I think that's the challenge. I think, and I don't know what her intentions were, but it's almost like
Yeah.
it feels like one sided, one directional,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
if it's not two directional, right? Because there's going to be some coaching for her as well. Because if you're in a new relationship with new personality, new needs, new whatever, they're going to need some coaching too. Like, and I've been in a relationship where I'm like, because it comes up sometimes, but I'm like, I'm a direct communicator. And if you're dealing
Uh-huh.
with someone who is a not indirect communicator, they're sending signals, right? They're going past me, right? And I'm like, I don't know what you saying. Say it plain.
Are you coaching? Are you coaching your partners?
I mean, you can call it coaching, but I'm trying to be like, I want to understand what's going on. And so I said, hey, I'm a direct communicator, so it would be really help me to tell me what your concern is, right? And because I'm not understanding what's going on here. Now, it doesn't change who they are as a person. If they're always going to be an indirect communicator, right?
Yeah,
But sometimes in conflict, you have to find a way of translating things or speaking in terms that make sense to the
true,
other person, right?
true.
And so, even though I'm a direct communicator, sometimes I need to not be direct. I need to be indirect in my communication with someone who maybe is an indirect communicator.
Well, this is where that whole love languages thing came up, which, man, do I wish I created that. I mean, that man has got to have made millions because everybody talking about love language, love language, love language, love language, right? So, regardless of how you feel about love languages, there's sort of a quick kind of antidote about people's needs, right? So,
Yes.
I need this, and needs to change over the course of a relationship. So, we all need coaching and we all need training.
And you make a really good point. Those needs change, right?
They change.
So just
Yes.
when you thought you had it nailed down, and then this happens in relationships a lot with same sex, different genders. They get real kind of like, and sometimes this can happen after years or months, and they kind of like, well, I think I know this person. I know what they like. And then the person's like, yeah, I mean, blue is my favorite color, but, green's the season.
Well,
And,
I'll tell you. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, no, you can say.
Well, from personal experience, right? Like, sort of in dating, what my needs were, and then, like, 20 years later, I'm like, ooh, emptying that dishwasher. That's hot. Yes. Mop that floor, baby. Woo! Yes. Do the chores. Like acts of service. Where before that may not have been the thing, but now I got three kids. I got the stuff. I'm like, you're gonna do the grocery shopping? Woo! Yes.
That's a beautiful example. It is a beautiful example because
You could
if
have
you,
told me as a young person, like somehow empty the dishwasher would do it for me, but I don't have to do it. You did it without being asked. That's the best.
see, now I got this imagery of your husband with a robe on, with his booty out, doing chores around the house. Like, hey, baby,
Shut up.
hey, baby, I'm doing these acts of kindness for you. I hope I'm
You had to
sexy.
put the booty out. I just said we got three kids in this house. The booty is not out.
It's
Get
during the
it
day.
straight.
During the day, I know how this works. You do it during the day when they're at school.
You so
You don't
silly.
you don't need to see what grown folk doing, but we over here doing chores. Hmm.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Now I know what's going
Doing
on in your
chores, baby.
household.
How you like that, huh? Them acts of service.
Well, like that whole OnlyFans thing. I mean, I hear people can get paid doing chores depending on what they're wearing.
I'll be honest. I keep on thinking I shouldn't be surprised the things that come up sometimes, and I'm like, people pay money for that. I mean, and the thing is, we're
Yeah.
not even talking about a lot of money. We're talking about $3 membership, monthly membership, $2 membership, but then it's the
How do you know
volume.
how much the memberships are?
I look them up. I'm like, what is this? What's going on? I mean, what is this? I mean, I'm totally like, what is this thing? And matter of
Right.
fact, amongst my friends, we were talking about maybe we should start our own OnlyFans and put our feet on the camera, just take pictures of our feet.
Right here, my toes.
Yeah,
You
I
like
mean somebody might like middle-aged men toes. I don't know. I'm a little
you
fearful
talk
to
about
find out who
dad
those people
bods,
are.
and here's some dad toes.
Is that a thing? Dad
I
toes, like
don't
dad
know.
bod,
I
dad
don't
toes.
know. I don't know
Hope
if it's a
not.
thing.
I hope not. I don't want it. I don't want it to be a thing. I'm not starting it. But let's make sure we touch on the coaching because I agree with you. It goes both ways.
It
We
does.
call it coaching or not. It's communicating your needs to the other person,
I agree. I agree.
and we have to be okay with that. And again, the stereotype is men sometimes are not as good at communicating their needs well.
Yeah.
And you've seen this before, the mind reading that goes on in couples. Well, you
Oh, for
should
sure.
know that.
You should know that, which is so silly. That doesn't work. That
But
doesn't work.
what do you think that is? Because I've heard it a few times, particularly because
If
I'm a
you
psychologist.
knew
They think
me,
I should
if
know.
you really knew me, you would know what I want. So I think in some ways it's a desire to be known and it's a test, right?
Mm,
That you just don't need to give your partner, right? Just tell them what you want. Okay, so years ago I had a client who like had a meltdown because her husband did not do Mother's Day the way she wanted to. And she
mm.
had all of these extravagant things she wanted. I said, "Well, did you tell him?" She goes, "No, he should know what I want." I said, "Well, you didn't get what you want, did you?" And she said, "I did not." I said, "Do you think he would have done it if you would have asked him?" She said, "Probably." And I said, "Then why didn't you ask him?" She said, "I didn't think about it." And I was like, "Girl, come on. Come on
I
now."
get side
And
eye.
you did not get what you want. Right? So, sometimes it's best to be clear, but that's back to that relationship coaching thing.
And I'll ask you one more question because there's
Okay.
a desire to somehow, like, if you knew me, if you understood me, you would know these things. And is it because they don't know them? I mean, I feel like they do know them, but it's like, did you really want me to do this? And it wasn't like this. An example you gave, it wasn't like he didn't do anything. He
Right.
did something. It wasn't what she was expecting.
It wasn't what you wanted. So some of it is unmet expectations, right? But it is best to be clear about what you need and what you want and negotiate from there. If you don't ask, you certainly won't get. Stop
Because I
testing.
can see someone saying, "Well, if I have to tell you what I want, it just kind of defeats the
Well,
purpose."
then you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. My whole thing is, right? Like we work on that. Like, come on, ask for what you want. Then both of you can feel empowered, right? When you ask and you receive, and then everybody feels good. Expectation met, as opposed to, well,
Love
I
that.
don't know, and
Love that.
maybe I'll give you a quiz on Tuesday at 3 o'clock, and you could, no, come on now.
And sometimes not magical thinking, but sometimes you can. Like, I'll give you an example. My son, one time, Christmas, several Christmases ago, I didn't go out and tell him, say, "Hey, I want this for Christmas," or I think we were actually doing Kwanzaa. So this is what I want. But we always do one simple gift, nothing too expensive. It's kind of how we do it. But I didn't tell him what I wanted. And to be honest, my kids ask me what I want, I'm like, I don't know. Whatever you get me is fine because that's how I
Yeah,
really feel.
yeah,
And so one year, my son got me this one of those speakers, one of those, speakers, the wireless kind. And
yeah.
he pulled it out, and I looked at it, and I literally teared up because it's exactly what I wanted. Even though I didn't
Oh,
know that's what I was wanting or needing, but somehow he figured it out. And
so
so
sweet.
and so I guess what I'm saying is that sometimes not that you want people to read minds, but when
Yeah,
someone kind of does know you in some ways, it can sometimes
yeah,
work out. But if it doesn't work out, that's where the communication needs to come in to
yeah.
kind of
But that was a
fill the
nice
gap.
surprise. Like you felt seen, I'm
Oh
imagining.
yeah, totally. I mean,
Yeah.
my problem is I'm not used to anyone giving me gifts, and so when my
Nobody
son
giving
works
you
his butt
gifts.
off, it's a long story.
That's
I'm
another
not really good
episode.
with
We're gonna have to change
compliments.
that. Okay.
I'm not good with compliments or gifts, but I'm getting better. I just nod my head. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Yes, there you go. Is it time for a card?
But hey, let's touch on this one more topic about,
Okay,
and I
before our
want you
cut.
to dig into it about women and kids and Gen Z. Say
Oh
more about
yes.
that.
Yeah. Okay. So there's this push by our government. Our birth rates are low, and there's this push to encourage women of childbearing age to have more children, right? But we know that Gen Z, the job market is terrible for them. AI is taking over a lot of entry level jobs. And so it is hard to launch into kind of adulthood, to leave your parents' home, to get a job, which delays, right, partnering a lot of times, having kids if that's what you want. And I think a lot of women are talking about, do I really, and couples too, do I really want children? Do I, one, want to bring them in this world? Two, they're expensive and, I can't get myself off the ground. And they're right, they're expensive, right? And three, I think I'm okay being single by choice or childless by choice because I can have all of these things and not have to worry about taking care of somebody. So I think we're going to see some interesting things about the birth rates in the United States and fertility rates and sort of changing motherhood and womanhood and whatever that means. So it's interesting, but I think it's like, you're going to start seeing it with Gen Zers, and you're going to start to see more and more and more with Alpha and whoever comes next.
What you're talking about, I think, is really insightful because it is a big challenge. I'll tell you what my worry is. I
Okay.
think legitimately we have to
Well,
think about the
Dial.
future of our country and stuff. But from this government, when they're asking the question of birthing more babies, my fear is that they're asking about how do we birth more white babies, and that's something that they're focused on. And that's actually part of the kind of agenda that's out there with some of these white nationalists because they feel like
Mhm.
whether it's Jews, black people, immigrants, they're crowding white folks out of jobs and
Mhm.
opportunity, right? And so we got to birth more white children so we can stake our claim on this land that was, gifted to us by God. And so
Mhm.
that's, I'm not saying that's everyone. I'm saying that there's an
Yeah.
element there. And do we need to have more babies? Yeah, but I don't know. I kind of
Do
like the idea of people choosing.
who
Well,
taking
I don't
care
know
of
if we
them?
really do. I don't know if we really do, especially with all these babies who are orphaned, who don't have
I
any
mean,
parents, and
it's
so I don't
not
know if we need more
about,
babies.
right. I was going to say, it's not about having a baby. It's about taking care of that fully functioning human being for the course of their childhood into adulthood. So it's not about having a baby. Lots of people can have babies, but then how do you care for and buy into the lifelong commitment to this human being, right? So we talk about increase in birth rates, but what about childhood and adolescence and adulthood and those kinds of things? So limited
Well, and
view.
you're right, right? Because we can spend all day talking about birthing more babies, but if we don't
Yeah.
have a system in place to take care of children and young adults,
Yeah.
we're not doing our job,
Yep.
as a
So
society.
daycare and all the, childcare and nutrition. I mean, it's a lot. You raised two. I'm
Still
still in the
raising.
trenches over here. It's a lot. It was a choice I made. I don't regret
Mm-hmm.
the choice, but damn, it's a lot.
Damn,
Damn,
damn.
damn. Yeah, it's a lot.
And then maybe that's my frustration. I mean, again, we can have a debate about whether you do or not, and I'm glad some people are choosing not because it's like I wasn't really built for that, and that's cool.
Yeah,
But then
that's
let's
real
get
cool.
beyond just birthing babies. All right, let's how
Correct.
about we take care and nurture children versus just
Correct.
raising children,
Yeah,
right?
because
We
I
got a
really
lot
don't
of
think
talk out there.
our society is not set up for being supportive of young families and just like sort of and this is a bit off topic, but as people care for aging parents and their elderly members, society is set up for that either. We're kind of like fend for yourself, y'all, right? And so people are disinclined, if that's a word. If not, I just
Hmm.
made it up, right? To some people are like, look, I'm not going to sign up for that. There's not a lot of support. So
But see, now you remind me of my great grandmother who lived until she was 114, who said,
oh
once an adult, twice a child. And the reason I mention
yeah,
that is because here
yeah,
we are neglecting the needs of our young people, our
yep,
children,
yep,
not taking care of them, not getting past just birthing these children and actually taking care of them, but also our
yep,
elderly
yep.
who are, who've made their commitment, who've made their investment in our community, and we just abandon them and kind of throw them in the corner, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so Unless you're in that secret sauce in the middle,
Secret.
right now basically you're going to be ignored by the society. And in other cultures, whether it be in some parts of Europe and Asia
Yeah.
and Africa, they do a much better job of meeting the needs of their young people and their elderly. But that's to me, I think my frustration about some of the topics we talked about today. There's our aspirational goals, right?
Yeah.
And there's what
Yeah.
we actually do. We talk about
Well,
freedom. We talk about all these grandiose ideas, but then when push comes to shove, we don't want to spend the money to take care of young people or take
yeah.
care of our elderly.
Because it's a very collectivistic thing, right? Recognizing that, my care of you contributes something into the world, and it's
You
not all about me,
sound like
right?
a
And back
communist.
to Jimmy Kimmel, that was about them dollars. So, when the almighty dollar is the most important thing, and that is the what we bow down to, this is what you get.
Yep. Power, money, greed, and people get left out. And so what? Hence the sympathy.
There we go. We tied it all up.
Okay, so we're now at the engagement card. I pulled one out for us to do. Uh,
Okay.
I always like to show the other side, Jim Bay. But this
Okay.
one is some ways I've benefited from my race are blank. Some ways I've benefited from my race are blank.
Do you want me to go or you want to go?
I'll go first real quick.
Okay.
Um, I'll be honest. I grew up having a lot of pride about my family, especially when we go to family reunions when I was a little kid, and you would see this what felt like a sea of black folks, right? And we were doing all kinds of stuff. You had the engineer type person, you had the educator type, you had the hustler, you had the family oriented person, you had the single player type. But it was all these black folks doing all different kinds of things. Not all the things that you're always proud of, but mostly things
Yeah.
you felt really proud of. And that just made me feel really good about being a black person and the way we would cook our food and the music that we listened to. And so for me, the benefits is that sense of connection, and
Yes.
particularly when things are difficult and you
Yep.
can lean on your family members and or friends or your chosen family, whatever it may be, and really,
Yep.
and it doesn't mean you have to be black to do that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that those are fundamental to my
Sure.
experience growing up as a black person, and that's kind of how I kind of relate to everyone that's around me, whether you're black or
Yep.
not. But I feel like those have been the benefits, the values that I've gained from being a black person in this
Yep.
society.
And I would say being black has benefited me because, I mean, it's so fundamental to who I am, and it connects me to people across the diaspora of black
Mhm.
folks. We have and we're all very different, but very common experiences, right? Whether it's being on a college campus and nodding to one another in solidarity and feeling that
Mhm.
support, right? Having some very similar lived experiences, a history that connects us, right? Being deeply entrenched culturally and what it means to be Black in the United States and comparing it to what it means. Like my husband is Black British, and we always were very interested because there are some very commonalities to being Black American and Black British, but then there are differences. And so it is the connection piece, a connection to history, a connection to survival, right? And finding ways to be comfortable in your own skin against a backdrop of a society that does not welcome you. And to
Whew.
do that, you have to really engage in self-love, um, and have a healthy racial identity. So
Yeah.
I like
Ooh,
it.
I love that.
Black.
Thank you.
Yes.
I feel like I'm supposed to be doing this or something, or burning some sage. So thank you for doing that.
Is
Okay,
it
we
is
got one
it
more.
side eye?
No, we are on side eye right now. But oh
Yeah.
yeah, side eye right now. And I'll say it real quickly. This one has to do with a woman named Brittany Jones, who is a OnlyFans star, who apparently brought the receipts of pictures,
Oh,
apparently, of her being intimate with her. I guess who she was dating before. He's an NFL football player. His wide receiver. His name is Stephon Diggs. He plays for the New England Patriots. And apparently,
okay.
she has all these pictures from when they was back in the day. I don't know how long ago this was, but let's say it was a couple few years before
Okay.
he's currently with Cardi B, right? But she has
And
all
wait,
and
and
she's
Cardi B is still married.
well, no, she's not married. I don't think she's married. I think she's just with Stefan.
It says on the internet says she's still legally married to her
Oh,
ex-husband
legally
Offset.
married. legally married. Okay,
Legally,
legally married to someone
legally,
else, but
legally.
has a baby with Stefan Diggs on the way. And
Yes.
then Brittany decided to pull out the receipts about what they were doing before. And this is how I felt. I mean, there's already enough
I
drama
want to know more
with
about these receipts,
when you're
but go
still
ahead.
married and you're getting with someone else and you're having a baby with this new person, right? That's enough drama by itself. But then here comes Brittany saying, look at these. Well, I was with your baby daddy, and I'm like, come on, why are you being messy like that? Side eye.
Because she's trying to get famous. Come on now. She trying to get famous. I didn't hear of her until you sent me like, we need to look at this. I was like, who? She trying to be famous. We know who Cardi B is. I don't know who Brittany so and so is. She trying to be famous.
Okay, I was gonna do like this through my conch, my pimp conch, and be
She
like,
trying
"What
to
the
be famous.
hell?"
She trying to be famous, and it worked because you put it as a topic, and now I know who she is. So there you go.
Yes, it did work. I
She
just
has had
I
a
felt a
noble
little
fame.
sympathy. I felt a little sympathy for Cardi B. I don't know her from a hole in the wall. Not really. I mean, she's a former dancer, let's say, and she's kind of had her comeuppance over the years, and she's a lot of personality.
Uh-huh.
But there's a part of me that with all the drama that she seems to be a part of, I would hope no one would just come in and just land grenades in their lives. But maybe that's
Give
just how
you
it is.
side eye. Come on now. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about Cardi B, but I don't you think that some of this courts some of that?
I mean, it definitely draws it in. I
I mean,
mean,
it draws it in. I'm not saying she deserved it, she earned it. I'm not saying it, but it kind of draws it in, right?
I
And
mean, I
and
mean, I mean. Okay, it does remind me of high school, the drama that would go on between people,
yes,
and
yes.
there's certain people who just gravitate like like a fly to a flame, and others, me, like
No,
give me
no.
all that.
I'll watch it over there. I don't want to live in it. I'll watch it over there. But I think, you know, I think that, and I don't know because I am not famous. Good chances I won't ever be famous, right? But I think that if fame is your business, you always have to reinvent ways of being famous, and people do that through controversy. And so,
Yeah, and that would be exhausting. And what I've heard from some people, some stories, you see documentaries about people, well, years later, they talk about how they would hide in their apartments or wouldn't go out ever because they were just so exhausted from the
yeah,
whatever fame and situations and circumstances, people following them. They just wanted to get away from everything. And so I personally think it would be exhausting,
it
but
would be.
clearly there's some people who like this and they thrive in these kind of situations. No judgment, it just isn't my thing.
No, no, but it ain't like Cardi B gonna go get a job, catering or something. Like, so part of her job is her fame.
Yes, it is. And I don't know if you heard, but Cardi B is she's doing voiceovers for the metro system in New York
I
City.
did. They played it on the. I do still listen to the radio on the car every once in a while. Okay, but they played it on the radio. She's like, "Oh, I was like, that's funny. It's kind of funny. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. Talk Cardi B getting announcing your stop. I mean, that's a good job.
I kind of think that would be really cool. I wish they would have that here in Austin. I don't think they do
I
that though.
I wish they have it in Chicago. That'd be real. They were like, who should we have from Chicago do it, right? And I was like, Common,
Common?
J
Oh,
Hud,
Kanye?
no, 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 thank you,
No, no, we
no.
might be mad after we get off that bus. All
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
so let's do our last card. This is our
Okay,
celebration card. Just so folks see it, the other side says celebration. This is our wrap up for today. Something that feels unfinished to me is blank. Something that feels unfinished to me is blank. You want to go that one
I,
first?
yeah, can I say everything? Everything feels unfinished. I mean, everything feels unfinished. Not in a bad way, but I think we're always striving for something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm striving to get my kids to adulthood, right? I'm striving to finish my goals at work, So it a lot of things feel unfinished, and I think that's the nature of life in our world.
You know what you remind me of? If you're familiar with the Myers Briggs, I know you are. I'm a ENTJ, and that J, that judgy part, it's not about judgment so much. It's more about liking things nicely tied nice, no loose ends, but everything kind of done, right? And so
Yeah.
sometimes the negative of that is you prematurely end things.
True.
Um, and the reason I mention that now is because I have to recognize in myself how sometimes uncomfortable I am with things being unfinished. I want them to be done.
Mhm.
I want them to be completed, and so I can move
Yeah.
on to something else and not think about it. But there's a place for things being unfinished because the truth is, like you said, most things aren't.
That's right.
And so if they're
That's right.
not
We are
unfinished, you
always
have to be
in the
comfortable with it.
process of becoming. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. We can
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah. We're always in the process of becoming.
Yes. And so, so I think about Jimmy Kimmel. I think about all this stuff with Cardi B, and everything we talked about is definitely unfinished. But it'd be
It is.
nice if Jimmy Kimmel could just move on with the rest of his career, and we don't have to hear about this. But the way Trump is talking, he's trying to come after him and every other late night entertainment person. So we'll
Okay.
see. With
We'll
that
see.
said, Riffing While Black, two minds, one vibe, with a little bit of side eye.
With an occasional side eye. That's right. And
Occasional side
until
eye.
next week, my friend.
See you later. All right.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye. Okay. Bye.